This is the second section of the lecture on the history of Japanese foreign policy. We will focus on the Japan-US relations, the US-Japan alliance, which is one of the most important relations for Japan. Because of the core importance of the Japan-US alliance for Japan's survival, the relationship with the US has been the linchpin or the cornerstone of Japan's foreign policy. The main characteristics of these asymmetric relations will be presented. Then the frictions and irritants will also be addressed before exploring how Japan is more recently trying to ensure the US in Asia. As seen in the introduction, the US-Japan alliance is a core element of the Yoshida Doctrine. It has enabled Japan to save money on its defense and focus on its economic recovery. The US also served as a key provider and a key market to support Japan's economic growth, industrial production, and trade. The alliance is asymmetric. The US defends Japan, but not the other way around. In return, Japan hosts US forces on its territory. Therefore, a relation of dependency toward the US has been deeply ingrained in Japan. As a result, Japan has been a US follower during most part of the Cold War. Nevertheless, as a junior partner in the relationship, Japan had to resist the risk of entrapment, that is, to being dragged by the US in a conflict it did not want, like the Vietnam War. That's why Japan enacted a series of anti-militarist norms based on the Constitution. The other fear is to be abandoned by its ally. So each time Japan feared a US disengagement in Asia, it took some steps to strengthen its defense capabilities and become more involved in the alliance. In the post-Cold War, the alliance was redefined to respond to new threats, the North Korean nuclear and ballistic program, and the rise of China. In this dangerous environment, there was no alternative for Japan's survival but to deepen the alliance. However, Japan also strived to increase its own contribution and make the alliance more balanced. For example, in 1998, it entered a joint ballistic missiles defense system with the US to defend against North Korean ballistic missiles. From 2001, Japan actively participated to the anti-terrorism operation and the reconstruction of Afghanistan and Iraq. While the two allies are very close partners, the bilateral relationship is not without frictions. In the 1980s, Japan's significant trade surplus vis-à-vis the US led Washington to impose sanctions and to strongly criticize Japan's protectionist policy and unfair practices. This Japan bashing resonates, of course, with some remarks made by the current US President, Donald Trump. Another important source of friction in the alliance is the presence of US military forces on the Japanese territory. Today, around 50,000 US troops are based in Japan. Half of them are concentrated in Okinawa that you can see on the map on the slide. This is a southwest island that represents less than 1% of Japan's whole territory. The pressure on the local community has led to several episodes of high tensions between the allies. The US and Japan are now striving to redeploy part of their troops to relieve the tensions, But the strategic location of Okinawa, which is close both to the coast of China and also Taiwan, makes it very difficult to achieve. Another related issue is the host nation support. Japan already covers around 70% of the total cost associated with the US presence on this territory. But Trump has been asking Tokyo to pay 4 times more of the current amount. Since the 2000s, Japan pushed for a more strategic alliance to properly address the China challenge, with providing greater deterrence, especially in the East China Sea, but also with more effort to maintain the liberal international order. But overall, the US seems to be in a relative decline, especially compared to the rapid rise of China. Washington also seems to be tempted by a strategic retreat. Despite its pivot to Asia, Obama, back in 2013, said that the US should no longer be the world's policeman. This kind of declaration fed persistent doubt in Japan about the US military's engagement in Asia. To counter this, Japan took the initiative for the first time to update the alliance through the 2015 guidelines. And Tokyo in particular showed its goodwill with the new possibility for the self-defense forces to come to the rescue of its US allies if they need it. And this particular move was allowed by the security law adopted the same year in 2015. At the same time, Japan diversified its strategic partners with Australia and India with 2 objectives. The first is to keep the US engaged in Asia as part of a network of partners. And on the map, you can see an illustration of the security diamond conceptualized by Shinzo Abe in 2012, which is a cooperation between Japan, the US, India, and Australia. The second objective is also to widen the option for Japan in case of a US retreat. Japan would then have greater option to enhance its security cooperation with other partners, India, Australia, and others. The Trump administration reinforced Japan's anxiety vis-à-vis the US engagement. The America First policy and the US lack of interest to uphold the liberal international order, especially were an issue. Therefore, again, Japan took the lead, for example, to rescue the Trans-Pacific Partnership. This mega free trade agreement was also meant to write the rules regarding trade, labor, or environment, and shape China's behavior at some point. The Trump administration withdrew from it in 2016. Japan decided to salvage the deal, even in the absence of the US, and the deal was transformed into what is called the CPTPP. Second, the free and open Indo-Pacific was also meant to proactively help define the international order and try to influence and shape the US-Asian approach with quite a success, as we've seen the Trump administration upholding and this free and open Indo-Pacific strategy for itself. If Japan is thus making some autonomous moves, it is also seeking to deepen the alliance in a long-term perspective, in particular through the purchase of next-generation defense equipment that are key to maintain the military balance vis-à-vis China.